honestly, I mean, I have been studying men this month for 35 years since I found out I was bringing out the worst in men. And I had to find out how I was doing that because I believed the worst in men is men. That is who men are. My perception equaled what I thought was the truth of who men are. And I'm not exaggerating. I questioned if men had souls. So I had it all mapped. And then the ever-presence of death drops into my head, and it's like, there's a cave behind the cavern, and I've never seen it. I didn't even know it was there. And then as I started inquiring, it's like, it makes sense of everything. Everything that's mystifying to women about men, it makes sense. The standard you all hold yourself to is extraordinary, and part of it, the brotherhood that men need, is to find out that all men are holding themselves to that standard. All men experience shame from failing. That shame is actually the biggest indicator of an honorable man.
The title that I would like to just walk around with you for is the one line from your Queen's Code where you say, "The soul of a man is a hero." So Heroic Men, it's a nonprofit Catholic ministry that was started during the pandemic. There were a bunch of ministries that got together and they realized we're all trying to help men be better men, but we're all fighting each other for attention. So what happens if we were to come together as an alliance? And so a bunch of these sort of heavy hitters got together and they designated a couple of people to go start a nonprofit to effectively reverse engineer why some ministries win and why they fail, and then to turn that into a program to train other men, and then to create resources like an app, like a media app, or we now have a magazine and podcasts and stuff like that to talk about this theme of heroism among men, to understand what that identity is, and then to try to figure out what are the core tenets of heroism that every man anywhere at any level of society can practice. And then our core goal is to start more ministries to men. Our core book is called No Man Left Behind, which is a Catholic version of something that our Christian brothers pioneered. So our audience, the men that we're speaking to, are Um, they're men of, you could say, activated faith. They're men who want to do something but don't know what, who recognize there's a crisis of loneliness among men because we don't know how to reach out to each other. We don't know how to strengthen each other. And it's obvious to us at Heroic Men, if you strengthen the man, the individual, you'll strengthen the family. And then if you strengthen the family, we can then strengthen our church and then have an impact on the culture at large. So that's our audience.
That's awesome.
We think so. Thank you.
Okay, so after you interview me, can I interview you about the tenets of heroism? Because when you said that, it was like, I probably speak to all of it all the time, but I couldn't name them. Like, boom, 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 boom.
The 3 tenets was prayer to the Father, and in doing that, a man is not a man unless he has a brotherhood, and that's central to what we do. So the first thing that you do is we call men to take a pledge to pray for the rest of their lives, to pray for 10 men, even if they never tell them. But you've got their back spiritually, and every single day you will offer them to the Father. You will pray for their help for their protection, for their families, just whatever it is. And then you might text them at some point when you feel ready and let them know, I've got your back forever. No matter what happens between us, I will always pray for you. And if you ever need me for anything, call me. Your number's saved. It's a bit like AA and how AA works. Like, there's no judgment. I've got your back. We're a shield wall now. And so you pray for those 10 men. It could be 8, it could be 10 every day for the rest of your life. So this daily prayer. Second is you will stay in touch with those men, at least one every week. So you're actively maintaining a relationship. And then the third one is you will reach out and invite one other man in your life to consider taking this pledge as well. And so over the course of the year, you might invite 12 other men. And so one becomes 10, prays for 10, and then those 10 become 100. So there's a bit of a virality kind of in it. We love this mission that by 2033, that's 2,000 years since, time of Christ, we want to get 1 million men taking this pledge. And it doesn't serve us. It serves the men, and it serves all of the ministries taking this pledge. And we're just sort of coordinating it and providing the resources for it. So those
Wow.
3 tenets: prayer, brotherhood, and then handshake outreach.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, look, so for this conversation, I bumped into you through a reel on Instagram. When I found you and some of your messaging, um, I was blown away by, frankly, your admiration for masculinity, your admiration for men. And it struck me, I realized, I don't know that I've ever seen this, and I'm a conversant kind of guy, and I'm married, and I'm looking around at the women in my life, the men in my life. We spend a lot of time talking about how wonderful women are. And I've
Mm.
not seen it come the other way, where it's men are praised for more than just our ability to sacrifice or our ability to die. And that's where, when I then grabbed your book, because I had to start listening to more of what you had to say, and I grabbed your book and I reread it twice, and I've refinished it again this morning to try to prep for today's call. And just that one line where you said, "The soul of a man is a hero." And I just had to invite you to come and just maybe we can just talk about that for men who are really struggling with an identity, and then have a woman
Mm.
stand up and go, not just other men stand up and say, "You're a good guy. You've got this. You can make it through life. You've got what it takes," and so on. To actually have women stand up and go, "I recognize the soul of a man as a hero. I don't understand what this means, and I would love to have you just walk around some of that." And as you mentioned on the Chris Williams show, you're all about shifting paradigms,
Mhm.
changing our point of view. And sometimes you change a point of view, all of a sudden a new path opens up, as opposed to banging your head on a rock. Um, yeah,
Yes.
like you say, born to heroism. Where would you go? What thoughts come to your mind?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So just 6 months ago, I would have answered that question starting at a different point. And I've been, for the last year, I've been in the space of the sequel to the Queen's Code.
I'm
And
looking forward to that.
well, I thought I was ready. I thought I was ready. And I just consider my job and it took 17 years before I knew I could write the Queen's Code when I thought I was going to write the Queen's Code. So everything in it I have validated in now 35 years of studying men. There isn't anything. I mean, while the book, even I'm listening to it for about the 12th time right now, maybe more. Oh gosh, even more. I'm still surprised by what I hear, by what I learn from listening to the Queen's Code. And I encourage you to listen to it, because the tone is it's not often, it's always inferred. Who you think those folks are is how you're going to hear their dialogue, and their inner conversations and their dialogues are so critical to the modeling of a different way of interacting with each other. It models it. So I always encourage everyone to listen to it. And the King's Code, when we publish it, it'll probably be, you buy the audiobook, you get the print book for free. And if you want to read along, then do. Because the prejudices against men are so huge. Women have told me that when they read the book, it was one thing, and when they listened, they were like, "What?"
Really?
They
Wow.
these yeah, a woman in South Africa said she said, "You read the book to me. The men's parts were so much more sincere and emotional." And I realized that when I read it to myself, I didn't hear them that way because of my prejudices against them, that they can't be that way. Oh my gosh. And so in the space of the King's Code, the first chapter came through in this amazing way, and I didn't realize till recently it's because the first chapter is the transition from the Queen's Code to the King's Code. And then it stopped. The movie just stopped, like the projector had broken. And
Mhm.
for months, I like, okay, and I had all this time dedicated, and nothing would happen when I got to it. And then in August, this sentence was higher consciousness can do this. Just
Mhm.
put things in your brain, and it's happened to me from the very beginning. So the sentence that dropped into my head that is relevant to all the ways that you set up your question, which is beautiful. The sentence is the ever presence of death. And I was thinking about men at the time, just in the way that it's always in my space. And then this pops in, the ever presence of death. What? Men live with the ever presence of death. What?
When you say this,
And
is this something that women don't in the same way, or men do in a different way?
well, I've had to unpack it. And no man has shook his head. I have repeated this ever since to every interview, almost every man that I'm with personally. It took me months before I said it to my own partner because what he said would matter so much, and I wanted to be ready for it. And I said it to him just about 6 weeks ago, the ever presence of death, and he said, "Yeah, it's sitting right here." And the first man I said it to was, "Oh yeah, I go to bed at night, often thinking I could have died today, or thinking I might die tomorrow." And honestly, I mean, I have been studying men this month for 35 years since I found out
Wow.
I was bringing out the worst in men. And I had to find out how I was doing that because I believed the worst in men is men. That is
Mm.
who men are. That's what I didn't even, I can't even say, I mean, the things we can say, I believe, we chose those, right? We thought about those, we chose them. It was deeper than that. It was the truth, right? My perception equaled what I thought was the truth of who men are. And
Mhm.
I'm not exaggerating. I questioned if men had souls. Okay. So
Yeah.
come a long way, baby. And so in the last 35 years, I really felt like I may not have caught every star, but I'd certainly mapped all the constellations in the sky of who men are and what makes up all the ways that you can be depending on the circumstances and how you're being interacted with and where you're coming from and what's antagonizing you. And so I had it all mapped. And then the ever presence of death drops into my head, and it's like, there's a cave behind the cavern, and I've never seen it. I didn't even know it was there. And then as I started inquiring, it's like, it makes sense of everything.
Really?
Everything that's mystifying to women about men, it makes sense of. And it had me realize, oh, the King's Code hadn't come through because I wasn't a big enough aperture to receive it until I got this part and had it unfold for me. And so it's, women, you'd ask the question about, is it different for women? Yes, absolutely. There's only only one woman so far who says that she's present to death, but it's not ever present. It's about once a day she'll think about someone who might die, and it's not so much about herself as other people, which, yes, women are afraid. We are afraid that our protectors, our providers, and our loved ones, our children, we're terrified of their death. But it's not ever present. We're best way I could say it came out just a couple days ago. We're present to life.
Mhm.
That's what our attention, our diffuse awareness, the way that we're monitoring the mental and emotional and energetic and even spiritual states of everything in our environment, we're present to life. How is life doing? Life force, life fulfillment, life, all the aspects of life, like I just mentioned. And we're sensitive to it. And it's why hurt feelings, someone witnessing someone saying something that hurt somebody else's feelings, or they come to us because their feelings are hurt by something someone else did or didn't do. It's almost a 5 alarm fire for us. It's so hard to not mess with it. We're the lifeguard that jumps in the
Mhm.
water for that, because hurt feelings for women, which the space of feelings, I call it a stack of pancakes, it's right here in the middle of our chest, and it's why we say, "You hurt my feelings," right? This is grief and sadness and despair and joy and compassion and love and happiness. It's all stacked right here. And so we nurturing what men so love about what women can be. I wish we were always. And a big part of my work is women being and men as well being able to identify the qualities that is their definition of greatness, what they most want to be, and the moments that they've been like, yes, this is me, right? To identify those and then correlate it to what do you need to be that. And then that's where I ran into this tricky thing about being human, which is well documented and it's expressed in different ways. And that is, as the challenge as people in bodies that literally have two nervous systems, one purely dedicated to our survival and the perception of threats and opportunities and compelling us to act in ways that will cause us to survive, maybe, and mostly make everything else that we value now worse. Because it doesn't care about fulfillment, happiness, honor, respect, compassion. That's no part of it. And so if you ask people what their highest values are, you'll hear spiritual values. And the challenge is, how do you how do you put spiritual values into this piece?
Mhm.
And that we're not meant to identify with, but we do, right? And that's part of the work that I do in causing myself to be myself, is keep releasing things like the pull of the senses, which are all associated with the body.
Mhm.
And I love your tenets, your practices, because of the grounding in spirit every day, to take a moment to ground yourself in. So it's, once we get connected with, yes, there are things we're compelled to do 24/7. And the limbic brain is a split second, always, at least a split second in front of the prefrontal cortex, which is where we choose. It's executive choice happens there. And something that I said just a few weeks ago was, it's interesting that the path from the limbic brain to the prefrontal cortex in another discipline would cross right through the crown chakra,
Mhm.
which, as you know, men not only want, but they need the women in their lives to be happy. Because when we're happy, that life that we're so attuned to, the most of it flows to you.
Mhm.
That saying, happy wife, happy life, um, and the despair that's so easy for men to experience with the ever presence of death, which interestingly enough makes this just showed up in the last couple weeks. But it feels so true that it's easier for men to die than it is to live.
Can you
Living is so
say more
cold.
about that? After you say 30 years of studying, men, and then all of a sudden this insight, like you say, just sort of balloons out or blossoms out of everything you've been researching. And then I'm curious, how do you start to make sense of that? And then how does that connect to like this sense of, well, like you say, the soul of a man
Is a
is a
hero.
hero, because it takes a
Yeah,
heroic something to push back on this ever present pressure.
that's the first time a man has said pressure, so that's a new area of inquiry. So when I found out I was bringing out the worst in men, the first question that dropped in was, what if men are responding to women? And I found the questions or the statements to be precise. I mean, the degree of precision is I'm in awe of. And so I didn't have an insight. I, I had a notice, and then my brain, which I have an engineer's brain, like my dad and my grandfather, that's just connecting everything to everything. And how does this work? And how come that always ends up in that sewer drain? And where could we change something that would then change everything afterwards? And point of view, you change your point of view, and the whole flow after changes. People are trying to swim upstream instead of just change the point of view. So in answer to your question, and I love your questions, but you can tell they send me so many places. And that is, okay, I'm going to tie it to something else. And this goes into what I've said about men for a very long time now. And that is that you all are the walking resolution of paradoxes. You're just living, breathing resolution of paradoxes. So, like one paradox, and I didn't mean to study women, but everything I learned about men had me go, why didn't we see that? What do we do? So, like, for example, when a woman meets another woman, what her inner cave woman is doing is asking the question, can I out attract her? Because of the deep primal certainty that you will save who you're the most attracted to. We think that's how men are wired. It's wrong, but we think that's how we're wired. And so that is the question that we'll have. Can I out attract her? And then how can I out attract her? and then so I told men about that. And they said, and they started, well, do you want to know the question that's there for me every time? And it started with one, and then I checked it with, I just start with one, and if it has a ring of truth, then I check it out with everybody. And this is what I mean by paradox, that the question is, can I kill him? Now, a SWAT team member came and told me, he said, his question is, how can I kill him?
Right. Right.
He was not SWAT, he was Special Forces. How can I kill him? But the paradox is, you can answer the question, yes, I can kill him, and then decide to die for him. To die for him because the assessment is what's needed for the people I love, whether it's two people, a family, a tribe, right? A nation, for the people I love. He is more important than me. He's key. I'm not. But I can be the Frodo.
Yeah.
Right?
You know what's interesting about what you're saying? One of my favorite stories is like the Legends of Robin Hood. And something we'll get in the older legends, not the newer retellings, is that you basically cannot join Robin Hood's band unless you fight him in one-to-one combat first. And then you can only join if you beat him. And that upends
Interesting.
millennia of how men organized bands and kingdoms, like the ancient Sumerian kings, right? You had to kill a lion on your own to maintain your kingship, maybe once a year, every couple of years. You prove and you telegraph to everybody, I've got what it takes. Do not challenge me. Whereas with
Yes.
Robin Hood, it's like, no, Robin Hood, you throw him in the river, you win a battle, because then everybody who's committed to him is not doing it because they're afraid that he'll trounce them, but because
Right.
there's now a much deeper commitment to the person, to the man as a leader, to the soul, as opposed to just the warrior. So what you're saying is
Yes.
fascinating.
Yeah, and I love what you're bringing to it. I'm having so much fun right now, even though my brain is like almost everything you say is like being tagged for later review. And so this walking paradox, right? Like every man, you could it could come to that you think you have to kill him, or it could come to, of course I would die for him. And that's interesting. The other paradox related to this is where we started quite a while ago, is the expression carefree, being carefree. And there's this like, carefree. And when I learned that caring is the biggest expenditure of energy a man can make, to care. And when a man says he cares about a woman, these women shouted out, "Why can't you just say I love you?" And this other man shouted out, "Because caring's bigger than that." And then I'm like, okay, guys, line up at the microphone and just had them tell me what caring means. Well, caring means I'll organize my life around you. It means, and they just went on and on. And so now a woman saying, "How do you feel about me?" And he goes and looks and he finds, oh no, I care about her. And how there's, like, for a man dear in my life, when he met a woman dear in my life, this is in my family, his reaction, can I say a bad word just to be truthful?
Sure, go ahead.
When he met my daughter, he thought, oh shit, I could really care about this girl. and it had this, and this is the paradox of you. On the one hand, carefree is this ideal, and it's probably good to experience for hours or days at a time. I think it's called a vacation. And the paradox of that is how much men need purpose. And the first way this was expressed to me was a man saying, when a woman I love has a problem, I have a purpose. When my wife needs something, I have a purpose. And the life force, right? If you want to, women looking for the life force in men, men with purpose, huge life force. That's the beginning, of course, is the quality of the purpose, to the point of what you were talking about in the very, very beginning, about men being lost, right? And what to do. And I have found one of the most powerful questions that I can ask myself is, okay, so all this is happening, right? My commitment, my passion, heaven on earth. When I was younger, I thought of myself as God's picture straightener. So my to-do list, put every ism on the list. Ageism, racism. I mean, to just go down the list of every way that we discriminate against people and squish life and its possibilities. And then I started asking, so what's my part? What's my part? And getting guidance from people I trust, and guidance from source, and getting more and more in the lane that is mine to do with all I've got. And I think there are answers. There may be more than one part, but what's my part? If we're at in this whole mess, what's my part? And we have to be careful, because in a culture of statistical status, it can only seem that it's important if it's big, right? If it involves thousands and millions and jillions and you got to impact the biggest number of people you can. And maybe not. Maybe not. I mean, when I was deciding whether to just whether to be a mom or not be a mom, right? To be a parent or just dedicate my life to this whole long list of things to fix, what came into my mind was, okay, so I started thinking of women that at the end of their lives, they thought about how did they make the biggest difference? How many of it was the good people that they gave birth to and nurtured into good men and women?
Mhm.
That was their greatest contribution to humanity. No kidding. And so I have 3 kids. And I just take credit for not squishing them too much. Right? They're amazing. And I also was supported by my husband in doing what's mine to do besides that. And in addition to that, and they've been my greatest teachers and an extraordinary expression for me. And they're the most proud of what I contribute to other people. My
Yeah.
daughter says, I want to be like you when I grow up. I want to make a difference. She's like
Mhm.
15 when she said, I've decided the most important question I can ask is, what is the impact I want to have with my life? And it's like, so, so purpose and what's my part? And my part might be like for my husband, his part was to support me and to be the guy that noticed who was sitting alone in a coffee shop and ask if he could sit down and then just listen to them and listen to them and listen to them and literally bring them back to life by them getting to express what they cared the most about, right? Comes
Yeah.
back to
Yeah.
caring and their passions, caring,
Mhm.
right? So the soul of a man as a hero, it also ties into here that what I've heard over and over again with the I could die any minute, the ever presence of death, and the risk taking that the biologists would
Mhm.
say is um, caused by our gender hormones, the risk
Mhm.
taking of men. Um, but what's always expressed is they don't want to die for nothing.
Mhm. It's got to mean something.
Exactly. Exactly. It's got to be for something. It's got to provide something. It's got to make a difference. It's got to have an impact. And to do whatever it takes to have the impact that they set out to make, which includes all the everythings. Do you know all the sacrifices, all the mistakes, all the missteps, and all the courage to go back at it? That's all part of being heroic.